Video 5. I want families of consumers residing in a group home to know you are never alone. There will always be someone out there who will advocate and be a voice for your loved ones and fight the fight like I have for my son Daniel and other consumers. You can also be one of those voices. Then your loved ones will never need to cry alone. Please continue on to my audio tape.
If your heart is breaking, I'm yours, whatever. I will not forsake you ever. Don't cry alone. Through the autumn rain falls, I'll be your shoulder. If the winds of love grow colder, don't cry alone. Surely as the sun sets, new suns are rising. As winter heralds spring's horizon, don't cry alone. Don't you ever doubt me, you lead, I will follow. Sweep away your pain and sorrow. Don't cry alone. No, don't cry alone. No, don't you ever doubt me. I'll be there for you forever. Don't you ever cry. I'll sweep away your tears and sorrow, and I'll be with you most tomorrow. I'll be with you. Don't cry alone. I'm yours. Don't cry alone.
Video number 5. Justice was not served for Daniel. Hi, it's Kathleen. I'm back. Picking up on video number 4, I mentioned my audio tape in the administration and staff on their deplorable behavior. I started an investigation against United Cerebral Palsy of New York City from 1997 that lasted to 1999 with an agency in Albany called the Commissioner on Quality of Care. This agency was to oversee the protection of consumers who are put in harm's way. I was hooked up with an investigator named Paul LaFleur, who has since passed on. Mr. LaFleur was a concerned investigator who truly cared for my son Daniel's welfare and safety. Although he was fully committed, I had to deal with a few of his bosses that were trying their best to block my getting to the truth of what was going on in the residence. As time passed, Mr. LaFleur allowed me to audio tape our conversations because he believed his agency was not committed to finding the truth. So I did record him. Now, to make things worse, the group home secretary, Mrs. B, left her job position by no fault of her own. This woman was the core of the residence. She loved her job and was 100% committed to the consumers and their well-being. The administration broke this woman spiritually by not allowing her to grow in her job position. She may have had the title of secretary, but she ran the residence as a top director. The administration stated they would not let her move up the ladder in her job position because she did not have the credentials to be a director, but they allowed her to work as one, and that was okay with the administration. This was all far from the truth. The real reason was because the kind, caring woman was helping me and my son, and Mr. Bully, executive director, Mr. Edward R. Matthews, did not want that. Mr. Bully's gopher, top director of all residents, whom I connected with and conversed with often, went right along with him. My first investigation showed the administration did not keep up with the safety standards and could not believe the state audits were even passed. They were passed because they let it slide. With the safety bathroom facility alone, it was a red flag going up, not to mention many other big issues like staffing. One issue I had uncovered myself was Daniel's medical records I signed for in 1990 was never retrieved from the hospital and sent to the residence. He was then given penicillin by the resident nurse without her knowing that he was allergic to penicillin. When I confronted the nurse, she stated there was not any medical records at the residence at all. The investigation also uncovered and showed that to be truth. While all this was going on to relocate Daniel back to Brooklyn, my brother Frank, who was living with me and my family already for 3 years, was diagnosed with ALS. My brother was a single man, never been married, no children, and held down the same job for 30 years. He himself was moderately challenged. All this was happening while I was by now desperately trying to move Daniel out of the New York residence back to Brooklyn. The administration was very aware of all I was dealing with, along with raising my daughter, and they did not give a damn. The administration continued to have me begging to remove my son out. By now I was fighting 2 battles, my brother's illness and my son's safety. It was pure hell. My life was a nightmare. I believe if the people who invested in these charities were aware that this was going on, they would have given much more thought to where their dollars were going. I could not move Daniel back home by now, due to my brother now being so ill. I went to my local councilman, congressman, and senator's office, and they wrote letters on my son's behalf. The most help I received was from Senator Vincent Gentile's office, that were truly a godsend. I even went to my lawyer's office, who wrote numerous letters to have Daniel removed. By now Mr. Bully despised me, and the anger I had was more than mutual. I also reached out to New York City Governor Eliot Spitzer, and he or his staff would not give me the time of the day. Shortly after, our upstanding governor, who was looking for people to lock up for prostitution, was himself involved with prostitutes. He was a shamed man and another part of a failing system. There are many others out there in all walks of life who are part of the dishonest people who use their power to put shame in the system. It does not matter if it is a president, a senator, a congressman, a councilman, mayor, lawyer, or even a clergyman. No one is exempt from deceitful acts. These are the people I was looking for help. Some good, some bad. You need to be your own advocate and not depend on anyone 100%, or your loved one can not only be at high risk for injury, but could also die. After a second investigation was initiated, and the pressure was growing on the administration, to no surprise, the administration then had me go to other residences in Brooklyn that was also in poor condition to try and appease me, but that did not work. I did the opposite, of course. I refused. It was one setback after another, one man's witch hunt against myself and my son, paying the price. At this point, I was at the residence more than I was at my own home, and my brother was becoming more sicker by the day. One incident after another, and the administration was throwing me crumbs to keep my voice silenced. That did not work. Daniel was now riding the van every day back and forth from his New York program to his Brooklyn program. He had to leave at 6:30 every morning to get there. By now, my son no longer wanted to stay in New York. He desperately wanted to be back into Brooklyn with his lifelong friends and his best friend Herbie. The van also had safety issues that were not always up to standards, and I needed to eliminate the long bus ride. Now I had another name for Mr. Bully. To me, he was a big bad wolf. Daniel by now did not believe the move would ever be made. I was still being told by the big bad wolf's gopher, director of residences, Mrs. L., that she was looking for a way out for my son. It was years of broken promises and lies. With the investigations going on, I was closer now than ever to achieve my goal of getting my son the hell out of there and back to Brooklyn where he belonged. Next video, number 6, will show where some of the charity dollars go when people donate. I am sure they are not aware. As my videos progress, I will show images of injuries my son received while in the residence, and also talk about reports that were never filed and missing when the investigator went to retrieve them. I want to thank you for watching and listening. Please feel free to comment. Be kind.